Chernobyl was a catastrophic nuclear accident that occurred on April 25th through the 26th in 1986. It took place at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Pripyat near the former northern Ukraine Soviet Union. It is considered as one of the worst nuclear power plant disasters in recent history. It was caused by an inadvertent explosion of the plant's core during an emergency shutdown of reactors undergoing a power failure test. According to the World Health Organization, up to 4,000 people could eventually die of radiation exposure from Chernobyl nuclear plant accident from 20 years ago. Approximately 1,000 on-site reactor staff and emergency workers were heavily exposed to high level of radiation on the first day of the accident. Among more than 200,000 emergency and recovery operation workers were exposed during that period of 1986 to 1987. It is estimated that 2,200 were radiation-caused deaths that can be expected in their lifetime.
The Chernobyl accident severe radiation effects killed 28 of the site's 600 workers in the first 4 months after the event, and another 106 workers received high doses to cause acute radiation sickness. The contamination from the Chernobyl disaster was not evenly spread across the surrounding countryside but scattered irregularly depending on weather conditions. Reports from Soviet and Western scientists indicate that Belarus received about 60% of the contamination that fell on the former Soviet Union and Russia. The workers involved in the recovery and cleanup after the disaster, called liquidators, received high doses of radiation. In the first year after the disaster, the number of cleanup workers in the zone was estimated to be 2,000. An increase in DNA mutations had been identified in children of liquidators conceived after the accident, when compared to their siblings that were conceived before. However, this effect has diminished sharply over time. In addition, children that were exposed to high radiation doses due to an intake of radioactive iodine from contaminated milk produced locally found that the incidence of thyroid cancer among children in Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia had increased after the disaster. In 1995, the World Health Organization linked nearly 700 cases of thyroid cancer among children and adolescents to the Chernobyl disaster, and among these, 10 deaths are attributed to radiation.
Mental health and psychological effects. The Chernobyl accident led to extensive relocation of people, loss of economic stability, and long-term threats to health in current and possibly future generations. Widespread feelings of worry and confusion, as well as a lack of physical and emotional well-being were commonplace. Reproductive and hereditary effects on children's health. Given the low radiation doses received by most people exposed to the Chernobyl accident, no effects on fertility, numbers of stillbirths, adverse pregnancy outcomes, or delivery complications have been demonstrated, nor are they expected to be any.
Genome damage is one of the long-term effects of the Chernobyl nuclear explosion. Studies have researched the long-term effects of Chernobyl on children that were exposed to ionizing radiation. Results indicate that these children suffered genome damage due to both internal and external exposure, with it being attributed to food and water consumption. The exposure to ionizing radiation has led to the presence of rogue cells, which is commonly associated with different types of cancer. Along with cancer, overexposure to ionizing radiation has been commonly linked to disturbances of the cardiovascular system, immunodeficiency, and malformations in progeny. Perceptions of risk and overall health have also been affected by the Chernobyl explosion. Inhabitants of surrounding areas tend to have higher rates of self-reported health problems, psychological distress, and medical service use. Research has found that those who experienced Chernobyl firsthand are likelier to be alarmed by physical complaints and are more inclined to blame it on their exposure to radiation. Thus, they are likelier to report complaints and seek medical care.